Hello again from my hot and steamy front porch. It is so warm. It was so warm out here when I first stepped out that I opened some of the windows and I've opened the door into the house and then opened the patio door from the kitchen out to the back patio in order to let some of the heat that was in here dissipate a bit before I came out, because I mean literally I just sat down out here to start this and I can already feel the sweat forming on my forehead. So yeah, it's supposed to be warm in Iowa this weekend. In fact, some I've seen are predicting that we're going to break hundreds and we might break records this weekend. Woo! It's going to be a warm one. But I still wanted to pop out and do a quick little hello from my front porch here. And actually, what I'd really like to talk about today is the element of personal accountability. Now, granted, this is Father's Day weekend, and so, the older I get, the more maybe I become one of those guys, the ones that are like, young people today just remember. But that's not really my mindset. It's just people today. It has nothing to do with age, because, like, for example, I just saw in my Facebook feed this morning 2 stories that kind of left me shaking my head. I understood the rationale of the individuals involved, but what they were saying and the rationale they were using just made me shake my head. Now, one was a tragic story of a young man who got shot. I believe it was in Chicago, but location doesn't matter. But a young man who got shot while trying to steal a car. And someone with a concealed carry permit, I believe even the car owner, tried to stop him, and when he wouldn't stop, was shot. Now, is that a death penalty offense? No, not usually. And the young man's sister is complaining about that detail, is saying, at what point does a concealed carry permit allow you to be judge, jury, and executioner and determine that stealing a car is worth killing someone? It's a valid question. It's one our society obviously needs to address and answer. But turn the clock all the way back to the start of that story. Why did the situation occur in the first place? Because the young man was stealing a car. And I feel sorry that the young man is now dead. I really do. I personally, I don't think he should be dead for trying to steal a car. I wasn't there. I don't know the situations. I'm not going to judge on any of the details of what happened, and I'm certainly not going to say it's an anti-gun firearm thing. What I do know is this: that young man made a choice to try to steal a car. Now, he likely didn't think it would cost him his life, but it could have cost him his freedom. He could have been caught, he could have been arrested, and he could have been sent to jail. And, that was very real. He chose to accept the risk by continuing in a behavior that was illegal. That's that element of personal accountability that is lost in the shuffle. The focus is now going to be on, did he deserve to die for that crime? Again, I think it's a legitimate question, but the element of personal accountability is, if he hadn't been committing the crime in the first place, that other discussion wouldn't even be necessary. Another story that I saw in my Facebook feed today was of a mother who took her young child, and apparently the child was running loose and messing with stuff and wound up knocking over a piece of valuable artwork that broke. Sent the mom the bill, the sizable bill, to cover the cost of that artwork. And the mom is saying, why would they have had something so expensive in an area where kids could play with it like that? Again, it's a valid question. However, the surveillance footage, at least the piece that I saw, granted there's probably more and I haven't seen all of it, so I'm not wanting to pass complete judgment here, but the little piece that I saw showed the kid messing around with that and not being stopped by mom. In fact, I don't even know if mom was paying attention. But that's, again, a personal accountability issue. At what point is the parent accountable for making sure their kid isn't running off messing with stuff they're not supposed to mess with. Now the reality is, unfortunately, I suspect that mom is still going to have to deal with that bill, because ultimately, as the legal guardian, as the parent, you're responsible for stuff that happens. If my kid were riding their bike down the street and smashed into a car and dented it up, you know, I can't say, well, I wasn't even anywhere there near. You know, why would they park their car on the street where a bike could run into a, you know, I mean, that'd be stupid. I couldn't do that. I couldn't get away with getting out from under responsibility in any fashion at all. It would be, the kid's a minor, they've dented up the car, guess whose insurance is going to have to cover this? So, you know, that's that reality too. Now, the thing about it that worries me the most is that now here, in these two stories, we're dealing with different aged people. It's not just young people today. Blah, blah, blah. It's a cultural thing that is starting to happen, where nobody wants to take their own personal responsibility. I am not accountable for my actions. There is something else to blame. There is someone else who's at fault. There's a situation that's working against me. You know, there's the rich versus poor. There's the racial divides. There's the gender divides. There's the sexual orientation divides. There's any divides you want to come up with. And increasingly, there are people who want to grab onto those things and use those as justification for their own bad choices. In fact, I'll even really ratchet out, poke the hornet's nest with this. I think back to situations like Ferguson, Missouri. Remember that? Remember the whole, you know, because the young man was shot in an altercation with authorities, and video showed earlier that he had been aggressively robbing a convenience store, or part of some folks that were roughing things up there. But you know, irregardless, there was they were still figuring out who was at fault. Nobody even knew. But the word immediately went out. White police officer kills black young man, and there was a whole hands up, don't shoot. Then of course, in the coroner's final examination, they proved that the gunshots that the young man suffered were not from this position, and so he didn't actually have his hands up saying don't shoot when he was shot, despite what some witnesses claimed they saw. But irregardless, the fallout of that were a number of very destructive riots in Ferguson, Missouri. Now think about that. We're upset at what has happened in this situation over here, and so we are going to choose to literally destroy parts of our community that had nothing to do with it. All because we're angry about this. Now I understand being angry about something. I understand about being angry because you don't like that Donald Trump is president. I understand that you're angry because you don't like the way some piece of legislation was passed, or some Supreme Court decision was decided, or anything like that. I can understand being angered and frustrated. But you control your own actions. You have your personal responsibility, your own accountability. When you choose to respond to those things that upset you by being destructive, by causing damage, by causing hurt, by causing pain, by breaking the law, you cross the line. You are no longer protesting. You are a criminal, and you will potentially face punishment for that. And saying, well, it was because of such and such that drove me to it, that's not a valid defense. In fact, I'll even go so far as to say, if you do things like that and you try to justify them by some other circumstance, you have abdicated control of your own life. If you say, and poke the hornet's nest again, if you say, I am so angry that Donald Trump is president, I am so angry at the things he does that I am going to be part of the riot that causes destruction, you are saying that Donald Trump controls your life more than you do. Think about it. Because Donald Trump did not, there's nothing that Donald Trump has done that forces someone to break the law to respond. But people have chosen to break the law to respond. Okay, but you make that choice, you cannot complain if you face repercussion for that choice, because you need to be personally accountable for your own actions. And you can't justify your own wrongdoing by what someone else or something else has done. So that's the lesson that I'd like to teach today on this Father's Day weekend. I'm not trying to be all preachy about stuff, but I am concerned about this. I am concerned that this continues to be cancerous growth within our society. The more we lose that sense of personal accountability, the more in trouble we all are. Because it's that sense of managing my own life, of maintaining my own parameters, that is at the foundation of a law-abiding society. If we get to a point where we don't hold each other accountable and we don't hold ourselves accountable, the rule of law will mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I'm sure no matter where you are on the political spectrum or any of those other issues, I'm sure you do not want us to live in a society in which there are no laws, because that would be horrible. That would be horrible, horrible, horrible. You may feel like at times that's where we are now, but trust me, we're not. We're not even close to that. So keep in mind, you only control you. You can respond, you can be passionate, you can be aggressive, you can be a crusader for your cause, but in doing that, you can't control any of those other things. You can only control you. Make sure you control yourself well. All right, that's it. I'm done. I'll stop preaching there and kind of enjoy a little bit more of this warmth. Although the warmer it gets, the more I'm thinking it's an indoor air conditioning day. In fact, I'm really honestly probably going to head into my office and do some work because it's nicely air conditioned there. And if I'm going to be inside where it's air conditioned anyway, I might as well get ahead on some things. So anyway, as you may be able to tell, I am actually literally dripping sweat now. It's plenty warm. I'm going to go in and try to cool off. I'll see you next time from my front porch.